Oh, hey! How y'all doing?
Hey!
It's this
Hey.
game.
It's this
Oh,
game.
damn.
We're still playing
What is this game?
This game?
Not this, not that one. It's this one. There we go.
Love
Oh.
this game.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Last
Thank you
time,
for waiting.
last time we had a very short trial day that only took one stream.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we came back and Iris made a lovely dinner for us. It's great. And I'm pretty sure that we're about to
Yeah.
go into the last day of this video game. Probably.
Oh,
It'll be
yeah,
a
seems like it. Did we
long
finish talking about
day.
it? We did not.
No, we did not. We got one
No,
more thing
we,
to talk
we
about.
talked about a lot and then we were like, oh.
Oh.
Right.
Oh, it's
That's
funny.
true. Yeah.
Sorry.
What do you got?
I was say it's funny. We were waiting because I moved, and so I
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
make sure the nucleus was ready. So as part of getting ready today, I learned how to weather strip a door.
Oh.
That's what I was
Ooh.
spending my entire day this morning. I was
Interesting.
filling the gaps with rubber. It no longer closes, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to shave down some of the rubber.
Oh yeah.
So right now it's,
Sand
it's
it down
prop-
a little.
Yeah, it's smushed closed with a table.
I
We'll
do
see if
with weather
maybe my parents
stripping.
won't hear the voices today, but it'll be fine.
That tragedy that we had to go through on the SS Buria, it was all for nothing. Kazuma wasn't dead at all. We were completely taken in by the lie that you told us. Your great detective's lie.
I took no pleasure in deceiving you. However, at the time, all that concerned me was preventing the young man's study tour from taking place, whatever the cost.
What?
I capitalized on the events that transpired to see that he was sent back to Japan.
His remains, you mean?
Precisely, Mr. Zato. And then I made sure that someone else was sent to Britain in his stead.
Mm.
Oh my! You mean...
The arrangement
Oh.
between our two countries was already in place. One university student lawyer and one judicial assistant to be accommodated on study tour.
I actually realized something, like a small theory I had.
Oh yeah?
What's that?
What if Mikotoba actually asked Sholmes for a favor to actually watch over both Kazuma and his daughter to make sure they actually arrived safely, and then everything happened?
They do
So-
know each other.
You think that this was an attempt to save Kazuma's life? Because that does seem likely. It seems like he was targeted for
Yeah.
assassination. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, by arranging for someone else to fill the place originally intended for Mr. Asogi, I would successfully prevent the man from arriving on our shores for several years at least.
Wait, do you mean to say that it was all in aid of stopping Kazuma coming to Britain? That's why you...
Think back, Mr. Naruhodo. Was there not somebody who quite casually urged you to continue the voyage to England?
The terms of this study tour were negotiated by the Department of Justice in both Great Britain and Japan. In the light of Mr. Sogi's unfortunate death, I'm afraid the study tour can no longer go ahead.
Oh, ho, 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 ho. My dear fellows, the majority of the problems have an extremely simple solution, you know. All you require is one lawyer, and the study tour can continue, surely.
But there is no one else with the necessary qualifications, Mr. Sholmes. We know of no other lawyer.
The voyage to London still promises a good month of time. Ample opportunity, I would say, to find yourselves in another suitable lawyer.
So, you manipulated me.
I've often remarked on the extraordinary lengths to which friendship will drive a man. I was quite sure that you would rise to the challenge for your late friend.
I don't believe it.
But if it was all contrived. I mean, what happened was treated by the authorities as murder. A woman was mistakenly arrested as the perpetrator. What do you suppose became of her?
Naturally, I didn't allow the misapprehension to have any serious repercussions. I subsequently explained everything and assisted the unfortunate soul in finding the foreign refuge she sought.
Oh, that's really great news.
Well, good.
Good.
Good for me.
I seem to remember Miss Susato and I had some rather strong words for her.
Well, she was certainly not devoid of all guilt. She deserved every word, I'm sure.
I wonder if she made it to America then.
I'm afraid I simply cannot now comprehend it. Why would you go through such lengths, Mr. Sholmes? Why were you so determined to keep Kazuma-sama from reaching Britain?
The truth is, 12 months ago, there was already a very tangible omen of impending tragedy, you see.
Ha!
Oh,
An omen that, at this very moment, in time, is close at hand.
Oh, an omen of all these tragic events that already existed a year ago is close at hand? We need to find out exactly what Mr. Sholmes knows. But not through here, apparently.
we don't have the evidence for that, I guess. Or maybe
well,
we do.
Maybe. Evidence, you say. Telegram? You're involved in this. You want to talk about it? There was no room for doubt with your instructions in this telegram, Mr. Sholmes. You were very clear that it was Judge Jigoku's office that should be searched, so... You obviously knew that's where the list of names would be found.
K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, J. Wilson.
But we only learnt of those 4 names just over 6 months ago now. And only because they appeared as part of a top-secret government communications that were leaked.
That's true, yes, but at the time you were unaware of the background. You see, those 4 names were wired to Japan around 6 months before that. Approximately this time last year, in fact, where you were both still in Japan.
Oh.
It really would be hypocrisy on my part to reprove others from intercepting state secrets, yes? Because after all, I'm perpetually eavesdropping on communications between the British and Japanese governments, you know, as is man.
I see.
Sholmes, no.
You're perpetually doing what? How?
Never mind the details. But you should know. No secret is safe from Sherlock Holmes when he has designs to know it.
Oh my! Mr. Sholmes! What a fabulous line!
Now, 1 month after that list of 4 names was wired to the recipient Jigoku in Japan, Dr. John H. Wilson was murdered.
Hmm.
As soon as I learned of the incident, a hypothesis rapidly took shape in my mind. As it turned out, I was partially correct and partially mistaken. Nevertheless, it was the beginning of all the tragic events that were to follow.
Mr. Sholmes, please, tell us all you know. Tell us about these 4 names and the tragedy to which they're all somehow connected.
Well, that worked. Great.
As I said, when I learnt of Dr. Wilson's murder in Japan, my mind immediately turned to those 4 names, because, you see, there was someone else on the list who I believe to be recently deceased.
What? Who?
A Shin, as it was transcribed in Japanese script. In actual fact, Miss Asa Shin. That was a familiar name to me. She was a professional killer, well known among London's unsavory classes.
Oh, I see.
But she had completely vanished from existence several months before Wilson's murder. So I came to the logical conclusion that she had herself been killed. And accordingly, I became fearful of the lives of the remaining 2 persons on the list.
Ah, Kei Asogi and T. Gregson.
Owing to our proximity, I decided to take measures to protect Gregson myself. But I determined that it would be safest if young Miss Asogi were to stay away from Britain.
Ah, so that's why you went to such lengths to prevent his study tour from going ahead. Yep, you were right.
Exactly.
So, you already knew who Kazuma-sama was, Mr. Sholmes.
Oh, yes. Sholmes and I have exchanged correspondence for years. I'd recounted many tales about Asogi to him in my letters. And the news of Dr. Wilson's death, of course.
So, Dr. Wilson is dead then? I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh,
didn't know that.
I know he was my daddy, but still, that's very sad.
The truth come out. Dr. Wilson, you're dead.
No.
I'm so sorry, Iris.
I really thought that we were setting ourselves up for a situation where she was going to find out the truth and then, like, run away or disappear. I was
Yeah.
certain something like that was going to go down.
At least she's mature enough to not do that.
Yeah.
We knew the significance of the name, obviously, but we just couldn't bring ourselves to tell you.
No.
But what you just told us, Mr. Sholmes, doesn't completely tie in with the facts. There's one big hole in your hypothesis.
A big hole, Mr. Nandohodo?
Ah, yes. You mean about Asashin, I presume.
Oh, of course.
Exactly. She wasn't killed, was she? She was in Japan, posing as a visiting student under the assumed name of Giselle Brett.
I'm glad you're keeping up, my dear fellow. But I only became aware of that fact 2 days ago in the foyer of the great Waterloo Hotel.
Ah,
Hmm.
And upon hearing the startling revelation, the hypothesis that I've formed surrounding those 4 names was completely turned topsy.
What? Topsy?
Ah, Topsy.
Topsy. What do you mean when you say your hypothesis was turned topsy, Mr. Sholmes?
I had believed that all 4 names in the list were to be names of victims. However, I was mistaken.
Very much so. Asashin was a killer. So this telegram is a list of both victims and killers, is it?
Indeed. And it would seem that Miss Shin was dispatched from Britain with the sole intention of dispatching Dr. Wilson. Her visiting student status being merely a front.
Ah,
which would, of course, explain why she had no motive, or why no motive could be determined for her actions.
so the real reason Dr. Wilson was killed by Asa Shin is because he was the target of an assassination.
And for armed with that knowledge, fresh consideration of this telegram puts this in a very different perspective.
Was Gregson assigned to kill Kazuma?
Or the other way
Oh.
around.
maybe.
Yeah,
I-
because
I
there was a
think it
whole
would
thing
be-
about, Cosmo being brought onto the boat to kill Gregson.
Yeah,
Or
but
something?
he refused. What do
Yeah.
you mean?
Well, does it not strike you? There is another among the four who subsequently became a visiting student.
Wait,
Oh.
you mean
But of course, a man you know only too well.
you mean Kazuma?
Oh!
He did say in court earlier today.
Yes. On 31st October, I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk in order to carry out a mission.
And the mission was.
The assassination of the Mark.
Oh, he did say that.
Hmm.
Young Mr. Asui accepted that mission a year ago now.
Surely not.
In conclusion, this document is a contract of sorts. An international agreement, one might say, detaining an assassination exchange.
An assassin
Oh.
exchange. How could Kazuma possibly have gotten involved in something like that? Indeed, how?
Daddy.
Wait, was this supposed to happen like a long time ago? But he lost his memory?
Yeah.
Oh.
Let's assume that we have two parties, each wishing to dispose of a distinct individual.
Squint.
Those two parties make a contract to swap their respective assassination targets.
Like that one episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
That would be an assassination exchange, like the opposite of the Big Brother program. It's very strange.
So, to begin with, the British assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Japan, where she kills her target.
The little friend program, if you will. Say hello.
And then the Japanese assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Britain in order to eliminate his target.
What's the point of this? Why would they do this?
I have
This
no
is-
idea.
This is so much
Well-
more work.
It's harder to find somebody who killed somebody in Britain in Japan.
I mean,
and
I
someone harder to
guess.
find
I
someone in
guess.
Japan
I
in
guess.
Britain.
You got a
Hmm.
point. Maybe that's it.
It certainly does sound like an exchange.
But what on earth is the point? Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Don't forget, Naruhodo, that the British assassin at least escaped conviction. Thanks to diplomatic immunity afforded by consular jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Cheating the system.
That makes sense.
Ah,
Oh,
Chico's.
yes. I see.
Such jurisdiction should be null and void under the terms of the new treaty between our two countries. So the fact that it was brought into play suggests intervention at the very highest levels.
The highest levels.
These murders were two sides of the same coin, linked not by a common motive, but a contractual agreement. As such, they appeared utterly unrelated, yet in truth, the assassinations were complicit in one singular devilish scheme. That disassociation and the safeguard of the diplomatic immunity were, I believe, the motivation behind this plot.
But wait a minute, Sholmes.
Eh?
If this telegram really is describing the exchange of assassins as you're suggesting, it would mean that the Japanese killer target was never Seishiro Jigoku at all. It would mean Asogi's target was actually Inspector Gregson.
What? Kazuma was here for Gregson? So Judge Goku wasn't actually the mark.
Yes, that's exactly what it would mean.
So judged off the hook?
I think Judge is complicit.
Oh, fuck. The opposite. I hold myself personally responsible for failing to keep the inspector safe.
Mr. Sholmes.
I told him my fears and implored him to seek a transfer to an overseas position.
Oh my god, the overseas transfer was a good thing. Oh.
Obviously, with the young pickpocket in tow.
Yes, Gina. Come to think of it, Inspector Gregson did mention that to us at the Great Exhibition. That he'd be transferring to the the Paris police and taking Gina with him.
But without informing me, he engaged in one last assignment, it seems. And sadly, it turned out to be his very last.
This is too much to take in.
All right, everyone. That's quite enough of all that serious talk for one day.
Hmm.
Isn't it, Hurley? I mean, look at the time.
Ah, quite right, Iris. We must conclude our preparations for tomorrow.
What preparations?
More walkie-talkies?
Well, I think I should make my way back to my hotel room now. This certainly has been a night to remember.
It is a little sad, though. I mean, I like the idea of being you being my daddy,
Bloody.
because then Susie would have been my big sister.
I'm sorry, Iris.
How do we know he's not her dad?
He said so.
Everyone's kind of said so far.
Yeah. I know, Iris. I was thinking quite the same thing.
Squint.
Were you?
But if somebody like me would be worthy, I would be delighted to become your sister.
Aw.
What? Really?
Oh, yes, without question.
So, you'll teach me and all the ways you know about throw Runo to the floor?
Yes, yes, of course. It would be my pleasure.
You didn't have to agree quite so readily.
Oh, but wait a minute. If Susie's going to be my big sister, you can be my big brother if you want, Bruno.
Huh? I mean, yes, of course! If you'll have me, I'll gladly be your brother. Yes! Yes!
Well done, Iris. We must always be mindful of feelings. I've raised you well.
Because being sensitive is your strong suit, naturally.
Oh, yes.
Well, that was cute.
Yay! Right, I'm going to work extra hard tomorrow now. Because it is for my big brother and sister.
What is all this talk about preparing for tomorrow? Preparing what?
Yeah.
You'll have to wait and see.
Oh.
Good luck in court tomorrow. I'm expecting a sterling performance.
I'll do my very best, of course.
Oh, is that all we're doing for this day?
Maybe. So the
Chatting and then back to court?
Maybe. So the overnight break in the trial's proceedings became a crucial turning point, exposing new truths whilst posing new conundrums. That list of 4 names on the telegram in Judge Jigoku's office, and the extraordinary assassination plot in which my best friend had somehow become involved. I felt as though I had been plunged into an even greater darkness all of a sudden, but all at the same time, I felt sure that I would see the light again soon. Because I was lucky enough to have the most wonderful family in the world standing steadfastly behind me.
Nah, you're just a son of a bitch.
Yeah! Yeah! Love that.
How are you gonna rip this out of my heart?
No!
3 of them will die. We get to
No.
pick which one.
Ace
We get to
Attorney
pick
has
which one
happy
lives.
endings. Typically.
Oh, yeah, yes. Sorry.
Yes. Everybody's gonna be just fine.
Wow, yeah, we're just going to the trial again.
Yeah.
I thought
Okay.
that we're actually going to
Just
investigate
one
a bit.
conversation.
We didn't have time to present something to Iris.
It is November, possibly for one of the last times? Maybe?
Yeah, probably. We're getting
Even
right
before
into it.
November.
Before we begin today, I have a brief announcement. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astonishing facts have come to light in these proceedings. The
Oh,
revelation
God.
that the well-known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice. And the discovery that a respected Yard member was at its heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Counsels, you will undertake this trial with the resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. Resolve, yes, that's my intention.
Is that the name of this game?
Yes.
Isn't that the name of this game?
What's happening?
I was apparently clicking a parsec, so my unmute didn't work. My lord, if I may inquire.
The defendant may speak.
On what grounds is Kazuma Sogi permitted to continue in his role as prosecutor? He has admitted to colluding with a victim in a plot to assassinate an innocent man. He shouldn't be enjoying the privilege of freedom, let alone be leading the prosecution.
I submitted a written petition to Lord Strongheart, requesting that judgment of my transgressions be delayed by 1 day.
Only I may be forgiven for my transgressions. They are not murders!
In today's proceedings, I intend to expose everything.
They are murders of bombs.
My whole life for the last 10 years has all been leading up to this 1 day.
Kazuma.
Whatever the outcome of this trial.
You know what this game needs?
What?
Like the Cabbage Man version of wine. So every time that he destroys a bottle of wine, no, my wine! Sorry, carry on.
All right.
I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. And I suggest you prepare yourself for the same, Reaper.
Fuck you.
Kazma's bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression we're heading into very dangerous territory.
Is that really even Kazuma-sama standing before us?
As an extreme exception to normal practices, I have granted this prosecutor's request. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume. Yes, my lord. In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed hearing of Beric van Zeeks. The defense is ready, my lord.
The prosecution is more than ready.
Mark is a bit quieter than everybody else. Let me deal with that for you. Thanks for the tip. Let me know how that sounds. Very well then. This preamble has taken long enough. Prosecutor Sogi, begin!
As you wish, my lord. The prosecution calls the first witness to the stand. Bring Seishiro Jigoku to the courtroom.
At last then, we've reached the final battle. He's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get the truth. Come on, Ryunosuke, it's time for that steely resolve, because this one is going to test it to the limit.
Push it to the limit.
Witness, state your name and occupation for the court.
So it was you who issued this, was it?
Your subpoena. I did what was necessary.
Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day when you'd take the that tone with me, I'd say.
The witness will ensure his responses are pertinent to the questions asked.
I don't like you. My name is Seishiro Jigoku, a Supreme Court judge from the Empire of Japan.
16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs.
I am, of course, fully aware of Mr. Jigoku and his preeminent roles. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I hear he also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation.
It was a great honor to be involved in the negotiations. I put my all into that treaty.
Judge Jigoku, I must ask.
Eh? Well, I never. Fancy the young murdering student. Turning up here of all places.
You acquitted me yourself, and now I'm a practicing defense lawyer.
Yes, and full of self-importance like your friends across the courtroom, I see.
You came here to London by invitation to the International Forensic Science Symposium. But then, without informing of anyone of your plans, you took flight to France.
Took flight? I'd have to object to that turn of phrase.
Then explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances?
Well, I was somewhat expecting this, and I'm sorry to say, I decline to comment.
What?
Leaving the country prematurely when I was invited, or an invited guest, may be questionable etiquette. But my decision was unrelated to the case. I can't be bound to testify.
Unrelated, you say?
I appreciate that a respected police inspector has been killed, for which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I'd have obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. It's as simple as that.
So you would run from all this?
I beg your pardon?
This case is more far-reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now.
Wonder?
A year ago in Japan. The murder of Dr. John H. Wilson, you mean?
That's right. And you, Judge Jigoku, are at the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it.
Well, Ryunosuke, I see from the look in your eyes that you're resolved to carry this through to the very end, too. What's your evidence, then? What proof do you have that Seishiro Jigoku was involved in this case?
The list of names?
He's not
Was he
on.
there?
Oh, but it was
Was he
in
on?
his. It was
It
in
was
his
in
office.
his office.
It was in his
It was
office.
in his office.
Yeah, that's it. Take that. This is a telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. The communication contained 4 names: K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, and J. Wilson.
You little... Where did you get that?
He
In
don't need
Tokyo.
no gavel.
From your office, Judge Jigoku.
What? How on earth did you?
What's this all about? Why is my name on that list?
This list of 4 names follows a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson are the names of victims. K. Asogi and A. Shin are the names of assassins.
No.
A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Giselle Brett, but her real name was Asa Shin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain.
A. Shin and her victim Jay Wilson.
And the murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart to that crime. An assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Asogi, whose victim was the British police officer Tobias Gregson.
K. Asogi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each each country to kill a target residing in the other.
What exactly is the defense suggesting? These two cases of murder, one that took place in Britain and one in Japan, were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of assassin exchange. And the telegram the defense has acquired is proof of this international contract to kill.
What?
The telegram was found in your office, Judge Shigoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you.
Judge Jigoku, what's this all about?
And you, Kazuma, you lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you'd accepted the assassination mission, but the mark wasn't Judge Jigoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard, as shown by the name on the killing contract.
Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie.
Huh?
The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Seishiro Jigoku was the mark came entirely from you.
Oh, you deliberately avoided saying a name? The defense claims these four names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jigoku, what do you have to say for yourself? His silence only goes to prove his guilt.
There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility that the scene of Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness's cabin aboard the SS Grouse.
Judge Jigoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in contempt of court.
There is no need for quite such a vicious stare, young man. Like mine. Very well then, as a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know.
It seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear about this alleged assassin exchange and the events on the night of the 31st October. Present your formal testimony now.
As you wish, my lord.
Testimony time.
It's true that Kazuma Asogi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago. The target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was a condition of the British study tour. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there had been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so I clearly can't be involved.
You were paying him off, though.
No.
So you admit it then, as this communication suggests, there really was an assassin exchange arrangement between Britain and Japan.
A political endeavor at the highest levels. Not something I can discuss here.
To use such a worthy practice as foreign study to coerce somebody to commit murder. It's the most appalling thing I've ever heard.
But probably not the first time it happened.
Appalling? Well, it's easy to judge.
Pardon?
Asogi had a reason for taking his sword to that British inspector, you know.
What?
Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel?
Kazuma-sama?
Judge Jigoku, if you are the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain.
I'm not obliged to divulge that information.
It's Strongheart. It's gotta be.
Obviously.
As I said yesterday, I've killed nobody.
Neither have I. I'm entirely innocent.
I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, this assassin exchange that the defense has identified is unrelated to the events of this case.
The crucial point is, your police inspector hadn't or can't have perished aboard of that steamship in Dunkirk because he'd been shot in the cabin. It's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard it.
That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London, in the room on Fresno Street. And the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper Beric van Zieks. The prosecution's accusation remains unchanged.
To think that a seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such Machiavellian dealings. Clearly, it's a plot only a government minister and high-ranking judge such as the witness could hope to execute.
Well, I seem to recall that it was someone on the British side who controlled everything.
Be that as it may, it is not the place of this court to pursue this villainous assassin exchange plot. We are concerned only with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Is the defense clear on that point, counsel? Fuck you. Yes, my lord. I'll keep that in mind as I cross-examine the witness. Hold it. A year ago, when Kazuma was still in Japan then.
Correct. It was the examinations, or was at the examination center for applications for the study tour that I approached him.
I'll never forget it. I'll remember exactly what you said. You just came out and asked me forthright if I'd considered traveling to Britain on an assassination mission.
Wow.
Surely not.
I thought it was a joke at first, of course, but then it was made clear to me that if I didn't accept, I wouldn't be considered for the study tour.
So you agreed to it just for that? I mean, I know how much you wanted to study in England, but assassination?
The Empire of Japan had accepted a proposal from the British Empire at the time. An agreement to send a student from each country to the others to deepen cultural understanding and friendship. But behind the scenes, the chosen students were to be given assassination missions. I had no choice but to accept the proposal that originated from the British counterpart.
Why? Why didn't you expose the plot then and there?
Britain acknowledges no part in these alleged misbegotten dealings. I advise you not to make spurious allegations, Foreign Minister Jigoku.
As a witness, I am bound to tell the truth, my lord. Anyway, I picked Asogi and explained the details of the plan to him.
Hold it. Why Kazuma? Why did you have to pick him as the assassin?
He was the most capable of all the applicants, and in addition, I knew his desire to travel to Britain was very strong. In fact, it was almost more than a desire. It was the whole purpose in life.
Yes, as his best friend, I can certainly attest to that. The way he threw himself into his studies, the way he pursued becoming qualified as a lawyer, it was all ultimately for that one single goal of becoming accepted on a study tour to Britain.
And of course, we know the reason behind that. He was determined to find out for himself the truth about his father, Genshin Asogi.
There's nothing I wouldn't have done to get here. Be that agreeing to assume the role of assassin, or betraying people's trust.
Well, you certainly did a fine job of betraying mine, Asogi.
But why was Inspector Gregson the target?
I have no idea. Those were the orders from Britain. I was in no position to question them.
You have no idea, really. I find that hard to believe.
Oh, do you?
Judge Jigoku was once a visiting student here in Britain himself, of course. Perhaps he has some connection with Inspector Gregson from that time.
The defense really ought to catch up.
With what?
With the fact the assassination exchange has absolutely nothing to do with the case under scrutiny here. Yes, I've already admitted to recruiting Asogi. However, in the end, something happened.
Wait, was that new?
I don't know.
Okay. I assume you're referring to the incident that occurred during Cosmo's passage to Britain in January. The awful tragedy that took place on the steamship.
Word arrived at the ministry some 2 weeks after the ship's departure from our shores. The visiting student who'd been killed, or had been killed, but his body had somehow gone missing in Hong Kong. The news was wired to me from a detective I'd placed on the ship to accompany the assassin.
Obviously, Cosmo didn't actually die at all. But he did lose his memory, including all details about his special mission. Did you not consider dispatching another assassin at that point?
That wasn't possible. Simply because that black-clad young student over there had already put himself forward as Asogi's replacement. Heh.
It's you.
Well, I mean, I guess it's kind of more navy blue, kind of green, maybe. Well, and there was no way to stop him from reaching Britain.
Ah.
My hands were completely tied.
So Mr. Sholmes' strategy worked perfectly.
He predicted everything that would happen.
Months later, my memory returned. But I'd never intended to go through the assassination mission anyway.
So you were playing me right from the outset, were you? Is that it?
I'd sooner be guilty of that crime than of taking someone else's life. I was prepared to do whatever I had to in order to get myself here to Britain.
This line of questioning has gone on long enough. All the court should be concerned about in the testimony given by this witness are details relating to his relationship with Inspector Gregson and the victim's murder.
In that case, as I've already made perfectly clear, I had no connection to the man or his death.
And you have some means of substantiating this plea? Okay. Hold it! Outside your cabin in the first class area of the SS Grouse, you mean?
Yes, that's right. Not least because there was a murder of a student passenger, earlier in the year, I imagine. The liner operators had taken to posting a crewman outside every first-class cabin door.
I can confirm the presence of the crewman guard myself.
What do you mean?
Because I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk that night, I witnessed it with my own eyes. There was a well-built crewman standing guard directly in front of the door to the witness's cabin.
And that particular time, of course, I'd gone to the ship's dining room for dinner.
The inspector and I asked the crewman to allow us into the cabin while we waited for Judge Jigoku's return.
I suppose Inspector Gregson was there in his capacity as the Reaper. He was intending to take the witness's life.
Exactly. As I've said numerous times now, I had no intention of killing anyone.
So the crewman let 2 potential assassins into the cabin he was supposed to be guarding? Not the most convincing of sentries, really.
In truth, those were my thoughts too. But anyway, I stayed to talk with Inspector Gregson for a short while. And then I left him there and made my way off the ship alone.
Was the guard still at the door when you went?
Yes, he glared at me as I walked past.
You see, that proves it.
I think I might be back to that. First of all, hold it. The crewman who was standing directly outside your cabin door, you mean?
That's right. A muscular man with a permanent grim expression on his face. He did not once move from that spot. To be honest, I thought he was a miserable fellow. But as it happens, he's a vital witness now.
There's no doubt that Gregson was killed by gunshot. And it's inconceivable that a crewman standing just outside the cabin door wouldn't have heard that.
But wait, what about the ship's enormous steam engines? The noise of them could have drowned out the sound of a gun being fired.
Sadly, young judicial assistant, that won't wash.
Oh,
You will recall that at my cabin, I was on the first-class area of the ship, which, of course, was the quietest. Don't imagine for a moment that it's anything less steerage. Yeah.
Anything like steerage.
Yeah. Where the judicial assistants go.
Steerage is the workers' quarters.
Ah.
I didn't mean.
But a hole like that made by a bullet was found in your cabin, Judge Shigoku. That's compelling evidence that a gun was fired in there.
What's that? A bullet hole?
Oh, yes. You're talking about what that detective uncovered in the wall yesterday, I presume. That was obviously a rotten panel eaten out by a woodworm. No doubt he didn't find any actual bullet.
Ugh. That's the hole in this argument.
Sadly, I was unable to arrange for the crewman to be brought back to Britain with me. But obviously, if a gun had been fired in my cabin on the night in question, as the defense implies, I would have been arrested on the spot and would have never made it to Britain, or made it to Britain in the first place.
Very true. The witness's logic is sound. Since no gunshot was heard from the witness's cabin on the night in question, we must assume that the witness is telling the truth.
I see you've seen sense, my lord.
I know Cosmo's already admitted to taking on this incredible assassination plot, but even so, hearing it confirmed by somebody else is still a real shock.
It's unforgivable. Using Kazuma-sama's feelings to manipulate him into agreeing to such a despicable plan?
But I think Kazuma manipulated Judge Jigoku too. He completely double-crossed him.
Oh dear. It's hard not to see that as a stroke of brilliance on Kazuma-sama's part.
One way or another, though, Gregson ended up dead. I really think that the murder must have happened aboard that steamship.
So you mean...
Judge Jigoku must be lying.
I know I shouldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. But you must destroy him, Mr. Naruhodo.
Okay. It's gotta be one of the later statements. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there'd been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it, so clearly I can't be involved. Do we have...
This seems to be the statement.
Do we have evidence that you bribed the guy?
I don't know if even bribe is the correct answer here.
Well, okay.
I'm mainly thinking that the guy seemed genuinely surprised when he opened the door and found the bullet hole.
It's true. Evacuation drill. You're right. He was actually genuinely surprised. Following departure from the port of Dunkirk, all crew members are required to assemble on the main deck at 10 p.m. in order to review evacuation procedures. The drill will take 20 minutes. Crew to resume duties as soon as the drill is over. It's got to be this.
Yeah,
It's
it's
gotta
got
be
to
Yeah,
It's
that's a 20-minute
this.
window.
Yeah.
Now hold on,
Plenty
I
of
don't think
time.
it's this statement.
You think it's the one before?
Well, no, but
At all times.
all
At
yeah.
all times.
okay.
If they're being shot. Yeah, I
wonder
think
if both could work, but yeah, this one.
I think
might be
she's
more.
right. I'm going to save first. I'm going to hit
Yeah.
this with one of these.
Because that directly contradicts it. He wasn't
Yep.
there
Yeah.
at all times. There was a time where he was not there.
I think you're right. Here we go. Yeah.
Ah! First
Yes.
one, first try.
As the court has heard, there was a crewman posted outside Judge Jigoku's cabin. However, we can be sure that, contrary to the witness's claim, the guard wasn't there at all times.
What?
I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard this steamship on the 31st. Stormtrooper.
What? And where did you get that one?
It's evidence gathered by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. You were you were acquainted yesterday, if you remember.
Herlock Sholmes again.
According to this itinerary, after leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 p.m. and for a period of 20 minutes, all crewmen of the SS Grouse were to gather on deck for an evacuation drill.
All crewmen were away from their posts?
And during that 20-minute interval, of course, any gunshots emanating from your cabin would have been heard by no one. In summary, Judge Jigoku, you had ample opportunity to commit the crime.
Ah,
A 20-minute window of opportunity? That's an excellent find, Runosuke. But it amounts to nothing.
Why?
Because the witness clearly stated in his testimony that no incident occurred in his cabin. He didn't do the murder because he said he didn't.
What?
unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false. Your accusation is nothing more than conjecture.
Very true. Well, counsel. Inspector Gregson was killed in Judge Shigoku's cabin that night. I'm certain of it. Because the defense has the evidence to prove it. You will present the evidence for the defense at once, counsel. What proof do you have that the victim's life was taken in Jigoku's cabin on the 31st of October? What's this again? This is what we've been talking about.
The small component, maybe?
Yeah.
This is a piece of
We haven't
Gregson's-
inspected it.
Oh yeah, this was
This is-
found in
this
that
is
cabin.
Wait,
Part
we
of
haven't
Gregson's
inspected it?
watch.
Have we really not inspected it? You see these little things all over the place, don't you? It's the part on top of a pocket watch that you twist to set the time, isn't it?
Hey!
It's called the crown, I believe. A watch would be quite useless without one.
The crown, like what sits on top of a monarch's head? That's a very grand name for such a tiny part. But actually,
Yes, Mr. Naruhodo?
if this is a crown, I have a feeling I might have seen a monarch around here somewhere with a very bare head.
If by monarch you mean pocket watch, then I'm quite sure you have.
We should inspect the pocket watch just to make sure that it doesn't have the
Yeah,
crown.
see if it
Yeah,
actually
okay.
like puts them together.
Okay, sure. Yeah, pocket watch, there you are.
Yeah, it seems pretty bare over there.
Eh.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Mr. Zato?
I feel sure I know exactly what will fit here.
Really? I was just thinking precisely the same thing!
We're about to see that little round component is actually part of Inspector Gregson's broken pocket watch.
Really? I was just thinking that precisely that, too.
Da-na-na-na!
If only we had blue.
A perfect fit.
Maybe it screws on. I knew it! Alright, perhaps you knew it. We all knew it.
I'll make a note of this new information at once.
Details of the small component have been updated in the court record. Great. Now, is this the answer? Because it connects Gregson?
It connects. Well,
It connects
We check the
Gregson to
crown.
that spot. Gregson
Yeah.
has been
Can
in
we
that
see what the
spot.
crown said?
Gregson has been there.
Oh, it is.
And there was
oh,
an incident in that
Now
spot
it
because
says. Now this one says it's Gregson's. It wasn't Gregson, so I think it's this one.
I think it's this. Take it. No, that's not taking it. That's taking it.
Take a
That-
closer
that-
look at it.
Take
it
it.
shows that the watch broke in that cabin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Judge Goku, this was found in your cabin yesterday. What is that? The crown of a pocket watch?
A pocket watch.
And if you'll observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part. It can't be. Moreover, this crown is a perfect fit on the spindle protruding from the victim's watch. Now, the fact that this was retrieved from Judge Jigoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch almost certainly broke there. In other words, the victim was killed on the 31st during the 20-minute evacuation drill. In the cabin occupied by you, Judge Jigoku.
Well, you're razor sharp, aren't you, you young murderer?
Expertly maneuvered, Rinosuke.
They brought back the spelling. It's back. Wow, look at it. Ugh.
And your argument sounds entirely plausible. At first.
What do you mean at first?
But rather like this pocket watch, it's full of cracks.
What?
And I believe Judge Jigoku feels the same way.
I was wrong to acquit you earlier in the year, I hear you.
Sorry.
If I had known that it would result in anyone having to listen to this drivel, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the world your ridiculous bombast.
Ugh. I think it's clear that the witness will have to give further testimony.
When you hear what actually happened in my cabin that night, you'll notice the pitfall in which you have stumbled.
Prior to your renewed testimony, I would like to clarify one point. The fact that this part of the victim's watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledge he was there, I presume.
Yes, I do.
Very well then. You may proceed to give your formal testimony about what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship on the evening of the 31st October.
Of course. As a man of the law, I have no intention of obscuring justice.
Squint.
I had a guest waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked to the door, a mustachioed Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. I soon took care of him with an Ippon Seoi throw, although he couldn't wait to run away after that. I imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It has nothing to do with the murder.
Clueless just redeems take a sip 5 times. Everybody take a sip.
Big sip!
Alright.
Tasty!
Was that loud enough for you? I could do closer to the mic if you want.
You do more if you want. Yeah, do it.
Slurp.
Do it. I dare you. I dare you.
I double dare you.
Drauken has also redeemed take a sip.
Fuck! I don't have that much water. Holy
Drauken
shit!
redeemed 2 take a sip. Clueless redeemed 2 more. Drauken
Oh, no.
redeemed another.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Monsters!
What is
We're gonna
happening
be
here?
so hydrated by the
Stop
end of
it!
this.
Stop it! Brian, please, no!
Too much water.
It keeps happening.
Good shit!
It keeps happening! It doesn't help, I'm drinking soda as well.
I have so much water. That's not hydrating at all!
200k more, no!
I'm just glad this doesn't appear on the stream too, because otherwise it would just be a wall of this person redeemed take a sip. This person redeemed take a
You
sip.
want to spend channel points on
Tell us things that you want to spend channel points on. How about that?
We don't know.
Yeah! What the hell do you
We're
need
not good
channel
at
points
this.
for? Nobody knows.
We won't.
Jigoku, what's
mean-
going on? Tell me.
Some people use it to play sound effects, but I feel like that would not be appropriate during this stream.
Nah.
Right. It would be fun. Okay, the inspector was clearly killed having returned to Britain because his body was found in London.
Oh, I see. Ippon Seoi.
A common jujitsu martial art, a technique in my country. I was careful not to use too much force, but the man obviously landed too heavily for his watch to take.
So, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now.
What?
The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness's cabin in no way proves that the victim's murder took place there.
Ah!
But he did perjure himself by saying that there was no incident.
True.
I've no doubt the inspector intended to kill me, but he didn't manage to pull the trigger.
Yes, because he was merely the tactician, not the Reaper's hand of death.
Well, the testimony appears to make perfect sense as far as I can tell.
Let me express my deep gratitude for your understanding, my lord.
But if this testimony holds, Judge Jigoku will be deemed to have no involvement in the case. Well, counsel, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here on a cross-examination. Sorry, my lord. The defense has a right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that.
You're an embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten.
In that case, proceed, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh yeah, you already said that. You already said that. Hold it. Because the so-called guard posted at your cabin door had just let your killer pass, you mean?
Apparently, Gregson told the crewmen he was a police inspector, which was the truth, of course.
You wouldn't have had his identification with him, though.
He had his trench coat and mustache, not to mention the bag of chips. I imagine the crewman was convinced.
But the man accompanying him would have had two swords slung at his waist.
You mean me? You talking about me?
Who else?
Yes, that's true. You would have hoped the sight of a few swords would have set off the alarm bells in the god's head.
The point is, I left the cabin before its occupant returned, and I immediately disembarked the ship.
Certainly. All I can tell you is that only the inspector was waiting for me when I arrived back at my cabin.
And you entered without any inkling of suspicion.
That's right. None whatsoever.
Hold it. Obviously, you're talking about Inspector Gregson.
Yes. Though at the time I did not know the man's name. And there was no time for introductions. I value my life over manners.
By which you mean that the inspector was there to assassinate you, I suppose.
That was certainly the impression given by the gun pointed in my direction. Gun. But I've never seen the muzzle of a revolver shake around so much in all my life. Anyone would think the man had never shot somebody before.
Believe it or not, most of us haven't.
Anyway, there was no time to call for help or the crewman at the door, so I dealt with the man myself.
Hold it. Even though the man had a gun? That was a very brave move, wasn't it?
My Ippon Seoi is far faster than a bullet, I can assure you.
But surely all that commotion caused the crewman to come in, didn't it?
Yes, of course. He burst in immediately without knocking. The inspector hurled himself at the stocky fellow and just managed to slip past him to make his escape.
The outstanding guard does it again.
Luckily, there aren't many situations I can't get out of using a quick Ippon Seoi throw.
Hold it. The crown snapped off and the glass covering the face of the watch was cracked.
Preferable to the man's head being pulled off or his spine cracking, wouldn't you say?
Not that the man was spared for long. A bullet to the chest soon saw to that. But the point is, the broken pocket watch doesn't prove that a murder took place.
Absolutely not. All the watch proves is the power of my jujitsu throw.
Whatever you say, it doesn't quite ring true that no shot was fired in that cabin. Because there was an obvious bullet hole in the wall.
What are you talking about? That's what the star of your lowbrow detective stories told you, is it? Well, I don't care for such fiction. Haven't you worked it out yet, you little stripling? No murder took place in my cabin.
Hold it. But there's no evidence that proves the victim ever returned to London alive.
Just take a moment to think of the idea of yours through now, stripling.
What?
If the inspector was killed on the steamship in France, how on earth could he have been got back to Britain?
I have an answer.
When people die, they die. Or they are killed.
People die when they are killed.
No!
Their bodies remain at the same spot. It's a devil of a thing.
Well, then, obviously the culprit must have moved the body.
How exactly?
I know.
Carrying a corpse off a ship in your arms would raise a few eyebrows at least, don't you think?
What? Yes, that's... Yeah, okay, you got a point. All passenger luggage is inspected when it is unloaded from arriving vessels, and I would like to think the border police would query the corpse of an English gentleman as hand luggage. No, he didn't have to go through that, because he's special. He's got immunity.
If the murder had taken place aboard the ship, you would imagine the body would have been disposed of at sea. There would be no sense in risking being caught by attempting to transport the body back to Britain.
Ugh, that's killed the idea that no.
But perhaps not.
Mrs. Otto.
We've heard the first-class passengers were under constant scrutiny by the crewmen posted to guard them. Which would mean that the culprit had no opportunity to dispose of the body at sea.
Yes, that's true. So transporting the body to Britain may have been the only viable alternative.
Dear me, you really are new to this, aren't you? I thought I'd been perfectly clear, but it seems it's going to have to explain in words you can understand. I think I ought to alter my testimony, with your consent, of course, my lord.
I have no objection. State your amended testimony now. That's new.
Oh, there is no possible way I could have transported the victim's corpse back to Britain.
Tell me more about that.
Oh?
There's an idea.
Think about it, stripling. All passengers and crew disembark at the same time and pass through the same checks at the border. The symposium guests were then driven straight to the hotel in carriages organized by the ministry.
And we met you as soon as you arrived in the hotel.
So you did. Well then, remind me. Did I have a corpse over my shoulder at the time?
No.
So we're in agreement then. I couldn't possibly have brought the inspector's body back to Britain. Unless you think they've developed some clever device these days to instantly move things from A to B.
I'll destroy you. You give me 2 minutes.
Germany.
You give me 2 minutes. Funny you should say that.
Professor Harebrain's invention didn't actually work, if you remember, Mr. Naruhodo.
Doesn't need it. Yes, of course. The defense has become unusually quiet and jittery and excited, I notice. Oh, goodbye.
Yes, because there's really nothing more to say.
So that's his story.
Well, I suppose if you think about it. Whenever you drop a teacup in the office and it breaks, we don't say, Mr. Naruhodo must have been murdered there, do we?
Is that a veiled threat about what might happen to me if I break another one?
And the fact that Inspector Gregson's body was found in that little room on Fresno Street. If he really was killed in Judge Jigoku's cabin.
The body would have had to have been moved somehow, obviously. Transporting a dead body over a country border That would be impossible for the majority of people. So there must have been some special circumstances that made it possible for the culprit then.
That could be a vital realization, I think, Mr. Naruto.
I think you're right, Susanoo. Give me a moment. Go to the last one. Go to the last one. Just go. You don't have to even say it. Don't even bother. Give me the photo. Where's the photo? Where's the damn photo? There it is. Take it. Objection. There's no possible way you could have moved Inspector Gregson's body, you say? I would say the opposite is true.
And what's that supposed to mean?
Slappa, far from being impossible for you to do. The transporting of Inspector Gregson's body back to Britain is something only you could do.
What are you talking about, Ryunosuke?
As well as being a judge, Mr. Jigoku is also Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Which means he's exempt from having his luggage searched when he enters the country. We learned that when we first met you upon your arrival in London. There. Oh.
Well, all those passport checks and luggage searches at the border took rather a lot of time. I must say I'm very envious of your ministerial status. Didn't have to go through any of that, didn't you?
Ah, I knew you were jealous.
I presume you recall this, Judge Jigoku. It's a photograph we took in the foyer of the hotel to mark an occasion.
I knew this photo wasn't gonna be fun.
As the court will note, you have with you your large travel trunk. Was he in there right then? Large enough, in fact, to have a corpse inside.
Mr. Naruto, surely you're not suggesting...
I'm afraid I am, yes. 3 days ago, when we were chatting innocently with the new arrivals from Japan in the hotel, the body of Inspector Gregson was just meters away from us inside Judge Jigoku's trunk.
Yeah.
Order, order, order in the court. I'm skeptical, counsel, that a grown man's body could fit inside even the largest travel trunk. It could. Because I happen to know that the witness himself, a man of a considerable size, fits inside his trunk. And verifying that would be extremely simple. Wouldn't it, Judge Jigoku? Get in the trunk. Get in it. Go ahead. Get in the trunk. Do it.
But inside his trunk? How horrifying.
And after we'd spoken with you at the Great Waterloo Hotel, you had the opportunity to visit the apparent scene on Fresno Street, taking your trunk with you in the cab to deposit the inspector's body.
I don't have to listen to this nonsense.
Dr. Gory, the coroner who examined the body, has confirmed the possibility. She's acknowledged that there are signs that steps may have been taken to disguise the true time of death. The onset of the body's decomposition could have been delayed by storing it in a refrigerator. Counsel, as I remember explaining yesterday, refrigerators of the requisite size are few and far between. Yes, I'm sure they are, but one place they're certainly found is on large ocean liners. Since ships are equipped with electrically refrigerated cold rooms to keep food fresh on their long sea voyages, and the SS Grouse is no exception. Professor Mikotoba told me about it only yesterday. Well, Judge Jigoku? However much you prolong this debate, you can't eliminate the truth. All the evidence points to you being the killer.
Well, this is all very heartening. I can see that it was a wise move, letting Asogi and you embark on this study tour.
What are you talking about now?
Logical reasoning, of course. All court proceedings will be built on logical reasoning in the new century. And I can see that you've both laid firm foundations for that already.
Judge Jigoku, please, stop diverting attention from the issue at hand. The defense has made an accusation against you. How do you respond?
Respond? There's really no need for me to respond, is there?
Why ever not?
Because before you can even begin to answer the question of when the victim was killed, you must first establish one key fact. Where was the victim killed? It's quite logical.
The actual scene of the crime.
The prosecution's stance is unaltered. The killing took place on Fresno Street when the gunshot was heard. As the accused, Barak Van Zieks shot the victim at point-blank range.
Since no tangible evidence exists to disprove the prosecution's claim at this time, the defense's deductions amount to little more than an elaborate fairy tale.
I'm afraid that's how the logical reasoning of the British are known for really works, you young stripling.
The victim was shot in that little room on Fresno Street and died instantly. I'm afraid it's the prosecution's claim. That's the only fairy tale here.
How can you say that?
Quite
To
simply.
me, your best friend.
Because that claim directly contradicts a certain piece of evidence in our possession. Very tantalizing, counsel. I think you'd better explain yourself to the court, don't you? The prosecution claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. But this evidence clearly contradicts that claim. Uh-oh.
Hmm? It can't be the top of his pocket watch.
No.
Evidence that...
Can we expect the truck?
Sure. What am I looking at?
I don't know. I'm just wondering if is there anything that would indicate here.
I mean, there's the slash on the side of it, but I don't know what that proves.
Yeah.
When in
This-
doubt, present the bench.
This happened when he was killed. I think we can
Yes.
agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably.
I know it's not like checkmarked, but the chat did mention it could be like for multiple reasons because it's a new chapter. But could we just examine it just to make sure?
Yeah, just
Wait,
take a look at it.
What am I examining?
That.
The blood stain.
This? Okay. Look at this dark stain here. Do you think...
Yes, I'm afraid so. I think it's blood.
Ugh, I knew you were gonna say that. So that presumably means...
That this was present at the scene when Inspector Gregson was killed. It's the most logical conclusion, yes.
To think Gina's been carrying this around with her. If you didn't know any better, I suppose it does look like a grease stain from all the fish and chips. The idea isn't... There's no blood puddle at either scene, and so there's no
Yeah.
opportunity for this to have been made?
Hmm.
I don't really feel like this disproves one so
Yeah.
much as both of them.
Exactly. Hmm.
Basically, everything can be re-examined. There's no easy way to tell if there's going to be new dialogue for it. Oh, dear.
Yeah. It's a new
Yeah, that's
chapter.
always
We've used these three things today already. Something that disproves that the other location is where it happened.
Can we look at that picture just real quick?
Oh, there is a blood puddle here.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that being a thing.
But what is that blood puddle then?
Well, it's got to... I mean, it would be his own blood, wouldn't it?
Would he still
Would
bleed
he
like
still
even
be
after a
bleeding,
day?
even if he
You
died
could-
the day before?
The blood would coagulate
Yeah.
pretty soon
I mean,
after
you-
dying.
you could like patch him up so that he doesn't bleed all over the place, and then you'd have to freeze him. But then after you unfroze him and took that off, would it just bleed normally?
Without the blood pressure, no.
If he had been refrigerated, he could still use pig's blood. I guess so.
I'm also thinking we're thinking too modern. I don't think they have a way to really identify whose blood it would be.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Was there that magic gun that identified victim blood, or was that just touching?
That was who touching.
Fingerprints, I
believe.
think. Or wait, no.
Well, we
Yeah,
did
that's
in the
blood.
first game have that.
Yeah.
That's
we
right.
actually
Yeah.
But
Bring it back.
well, the court said
Probably
that,
not admissible.
yeah, the court said we couldn't use it as evidence back then. I might accept a tiny hint on this one. I just don't know exactly.
That handprint is the same
What
blood as
kind
it's in the picture.
Maybe
What
I'll
are
have
we
a
trying to
save.
prove? Why is there
We're
blood
We're
there?
trying to disprove that it happened at Fresno Street.
Right.
Yeah.
A piece of evidence apparently.
Yeah, bring up the
disproves
history
that.
page real quick. That
Didn't
might
there-
help.
History.
What exactly am I
Didn't they say
looking
something
for?
like they seemed like the body seemed off somehow? And that's why we were talking about it being delayed in a freezer?
Okay, let's see.
How can you say that? Quite simply, I don't think this really...
Piece of evidence.
We're trying to disprove that he died instantly? I thought...
Prosecution
Yeah.
claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot
Yeah.
at the scene of Fresno Street.
Oh.
But this disproves it.
But this disproves it. Okay. That he died instantly. Okay.
And what does the
What?
picture say?
The picture? Oh, what is it?
Oh,
say?
like the actual.
Body appears to be tightly curled up and there's a red hair piece on his
Nah.
head.
What does the autopsy say? We got an
Uh,
updated autopsy, right?
Not Clint's. Autopsy report from the examination of Inspector Gregson's body.
Accurate
according-
time of death is not possible.
Can we
Yeah.
read it?
Evidence suggests measures have been taken to disguise the time of death. Victim was shot in the chest from close range from the front, resulting in instant death. I mean, that's what it says. Scorch marks at point of entry. The bullet exited the body from behind. Okay. Bring Gory to the stand. I'm not entirely sure. Does anybody have a guess?
I'm not quite sure.
I have no
without-
idea.
Evidence.
Ugh.
Wait. The fish and chips. The fish and chips.
Yeah.
But
Wait.
that doesn't
Fish
really.
and
What
Is
about
it gonna
them?
be the fish and chips?
Didn't Gory mention something about the fish and chips having gone
Well,
bad in his coat?
Well, yeah. What they're meaning there is that they went bad. While he should have. They shouldn't have by the time he would have died. Like.
But we don't have evidence for
Yeah.
that, though.
That talks about that. You're right.
Yeah, and that doesn't disprove that he died instantly.
This doesn't help at all. I don't know at this point.
What does the blade show?
The sword?
Yeah. Yeah, just the tip. Okay.
Prize sword's tip has a small piece missing. Do you have anything that supports your theory about how the body was moved? Not just that it was possible, but that it happened.
Curled up!
That
He's
would be
curled
the
up!
chips.
The fact that
He's
he's
curled
curled
up?
up?
He had
Rigor
to, like,
mortis?
do
Be
Box.
in the chest.
I mean, sure, but when he came out of the chest, wouldn't he uncurl up?
Because rigor
Rigor
mortis?
Would he still be?
Hmm. Have we been tutorialized on rigor mortis?
I think we have, actually.
I feel like that's a long shot, but
It's better than the nothing that's in my brain, so let's try it. Oh my god!
okay.
A photograph of the victim in the very location you claim he wasn't killed. Yes, but the point is the posture of the body itself.
Are you
Jesus
serious?
Christ! Jesus
All
Christ!
right.
You figured it out?
If Inspector Gregson had been shot there in that room, It's out of the question that his body would have been curled up in a ball like that. That's dumb!
No,
No.
that makes sense.
It makes sense,
No.
but it's
Yeah.
A person
I
might
still-
curl up in pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think when they died, they would then like actually not remain curled. I think that's the
Did
point.
they-
They
The-
would carry his
Wait,
mod
did they
wreck.
say-
If he died instantly, he wouldn't
That's
have
right.
had the time to
That's
curl up.
right.
Yeah.
If they said he died instantly, then he wouldn't have curled up.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
actually, isn't
He
it?
would just fall
And if-
over.
Yeah, if he died instantly while he was standing, then he would have just fallen over. He wouldn't be curled up like that. That is
right.
so small, but yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that's dumb. He could
Yeah,
easily
there
have
we go.
adopted. Oh yeah, he easily adopted that foetal position due to the pain of the shot, which subsequently proved fatal.
What, you're
Is
gonna
that how
respell
British people
fatal? Fetal?
Is that how British people spell fetal?
Oh, is that fatal?
It's- it looks like it, yeah.
Fetal.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Judge Jigoku, but it's your logic that is flawed.
But
According to the autopsy report, the victim died instantly. He would have felt no pain, much less have been able to draw himself into that position. Which begs the question of why the victim's body is curled up in that way.
I love when the game says the exact same things that we just said.
Yeah.
Though the answer should be abundantly clear by now. You're suggesting. The inspector's body took on that posture ahead of its arrival on Fresno Street, before it was coldly turned out on the floor. From the inside of a large travel trunk.
You're quite right. The shape of the body. It looks exactly as if it had been kept in a confined space.
Judge Jigoku, present your trunk for examination. I believe it's very possible that it will contain traces of the victim's blood.
Present your trunk for examination.
present my trunk. I refuse.
What? Nani?
On what grounds?
I am the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Empire of Japan. I shouldn't have to put up with this treatment just because of some stripling's baseless accusations.
You should have to undergo it more.
In other words, Judge Shikoku, there is blood in your trunk.
No, there's not. I am presenting that as the lie. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I
Shut up!
I will.
At this moment, you're not a government minister. You are a witness in a trial in Britain's highest court. I don't care who you are or what your status outside this courtroom might be. You will not withhold information. Nothing is more important than the truth. Order in the court. Well, Mr. Jikoku, what's it to be?
You can't be serious. You did it?
Have you no shame at all, Kazuma Hosogi?
What?
Very well, I admit it. I did bring the inspector's body into the country. Inside my trunk, exactly as postulated by the defense.
What? Dear God, outrageous. So it was you. You admit to...
No, I admit to nothing more than what I've said. Of killing the man, I certainly have no recollection.
What on earth is that cryptic statement supposed to mean?
I merely disposed of the inspector's body, which was left in my cabin. In order to avoid unwanted attention,
I kind of did the same thing today. I took some
What?
apple cores and stuff to Walmart, and I just kind of threw it away in their
What?
garbage can.
It's
I
comparable.
wouldn't really
It's the
say
same
that's
thing.
the same.
I mean,
Jay,
That's
you're a
exactly
criminal.
the same.
I took
Jay,
my
you're going to
thing.
jail!
Murdered
I
those
didn't
apple
want it.
cores.
Go
No,
to jail.
well, I mean, they'll never be able to find the body. I hate it.
It is the same.
As the judicial
It's
assistant
the
over there
perfect
pointed
crime.
out. Yes.
We'll never know.
Apple core, Baltimore. Who's innocent? Me. I had no chance to throw it out into the ocean. So I decided my only option was to bring it into Britain with me and dispose of it somewhere else.
You can't still deny it. If you didn't do it, then who on earth did kill the man?
As you know, there was one other person in my cabin that night. He had the opportunity. And moreover, he already accepted a mission to take the inspector's life.
Oh,
That's right. Who else could it have been? It was you, Kazuma Hosogi. Here comes the bus you're going under.
You.
You.
I had never thought you'd stoop to this, Seishiro Jigoku.
You've taken the words straight out of my mouth. Prosecutor Kazumi Hosogi.
Kazumi.
Kazumi Hosoga. You thought by leaving the body in my cabin you could pin the crime on me, did you?
Well, the prosecution counsel has already admitted to visiting the witness's cabin on the night in question.
Yes, on an assassination mission, no less.
You wouldn't.
So, what do you make of that, young stripling? You've heard my testimony now, and that's all I have to say on the matter. I'll admit to nothing more.
I don't believe this.
Counsel for the defense. What is your position now? The court awaits your response to the witness's assertion. The assertion that on the night in question, the victim's assailant was in fact Mr. Kazuma Hosogi. This isn't the dead end it seems to be. The answer's right in front of me. It comes down to Jigoku, or Kazuma. Both of them had the opportunity to kill Gregson, but only one of them did it. And I'm just a step away from proving who. Very well. The defense is ready to respond to the assertion put forward by Judge Jigoku. The idea that the victim's murder could have been committed by Prosecutor Hosogi is... saying that it's possible or impossible isn't incredibly final.
Yeah, but it is possible.
I do
All
think
things are possible.
it's possible.
Anything's possible if you set your mind to it.
Yeah, yeah. Does anybody have a strong opinion on this?
I mean, you just saved, so let's throw caution to the wind and choose one.
It's possible.
It's possible.
Let's show the apple cores at Walmart.
Well,
They
it
try
is
to make that a thing.
I'm
Yes.
gonna.
it is possible, my lord.
Huh? How could you?
Do you think I want to believe it? But the fact is, I can't say with complete certainty what actually happened because I wasn't there.
You disappoint me, Ryunosuke.
If I may, Mr. Naruhodo, I think perhaps that's why we form opinions based on evidence.
Ah, so true. Oh. And
So
actually,
true.
we have evidence that can settle this argument conclusively. My lord, the defense would like to present evidence in support. Before you plow on, feigning ignorance of what just occurred, counsel, means a lot because you have save states to do that.
Wait,
sort
what?
of-
Wait,
I'm
why?
I'm going back so that I can undo because he's about to punish me.
Well,
I
were we sure about that?
My
don't
My
I
little
don't
markers
think we
came
were
up in
sure
the-
about that.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean.
Okay, well, sorry. I'm picking
Oh, too
impossible.
late.
Judge Jigoku, let me remind you of something you said only a few minutes ago. You claimed that logical reasoning is the future of the judicial process.
What were we doing before?
It is, no question.
Well, logical reasoning can prove something here. Namely, that it would have been impossible for Prosecutor Asogi to commit the crime.
What?
The court will only accept an argument that is supported by compelling evidence. So present what you have, counsel. What proof is there that allegedly demonstrates the impossibility of Prosecutor Asogi's involvement? Well, obviously I don't know. The sword does seem relevant, but I don't see how it would say that it's impossible. Because the sword is really the only thing related
Yeah.
to Kazuma specifically in here.
Yeah.
And the chest with the
And-
piece in it.
And we know he wasn't killed with the sword because he only has a bullet wound.
True.
But that doesn't disprove that he had a gun on him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Gunblade.
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 Uh,
Disproves Asogi's involvement.
it wouldn't be the trunk because if like, why would he like slice his trunk and then not do anything else?
I don't really follow that.
Like, why would he go to the effort of slicing his bag and chip his blade and then kill him with the gun?
Was this done in an effort to force the trunk open?
Oh,
And-
maybe. But
I mean, because
we don't know that.
we don't really know why Kazuma did that yet. I don't know. I'm a little tempted to just try the sword, though.
Could have sliced the lock. True. It's either the sword or the trunk, in my opinion.
Anybody else think of something else?
I can't think of anything else, but
I'm leaning personally towards the trunk.
why would that prove his innocence in this, though?
More that he did do a swipe against him, but didn't actually attack him. The blood is on literally opposite side of this trunk. So
I guess.
I don't think he's related.
I'm gonna try it. Take that. Uh-oh.
Fuck.
You're making the evidence weep here, Inosuke Naruhodo.
No, I'm not. I can time travel.
I like how he's taken to saying our full name like Francisca.
Yeah.
I mean,
Narrative-
it is. They did get taught by his clan, so.
You gotta commit to the damage. That's not what I'm seeing. But
But I like the dialogue.
Aw. Here you go. Go ahead and try this.
No.
Okay, you know what? I'll take the hit this time. Sorry?
Every piece of evidence has a role to play in arriving at the truth. They're not playthings you can toss around the courtroom for entertainment.
Kazuma, that's the only things that are related to you in the evidence.
Never mind the evidence. You're about to make me weep, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh, no, I can't upset Suzato-san, or I'll end up being upset too. It's true. We know a member of the crew was on sentry duty outside the first-class cabins nearly all the time. So as long as the guard was there, it would have been impossible to fire a gun without it being heard. And that very much narrows down when the crime could have been committed. Okay, the court will only accept an argument that is supported by compelling evidence. So present what you have, counsel. What proof is there? Do the thing. Go on.
Now we know.
So we don't have proof that Kazuma was there during the 20-minute period?
Yeah.
Is that the problem?
I think that's the problem.
Okay, what do I present specifically about that? Is it the little notice here?
I
Yeah.
think so.
But do we know that he couldn't have been there during that time? Oh, because of when it was? Wait,
Yeah.
when was it? 31st of October? Could he have been on the ship during that time? I don't know. I don't know. I'm willing to try it. Go. Take that. Ha! This
Yes.
itinerary for crew members of the SS Grouse, my lord. This is conclusive proof. An itinerary? How does that prove anything? Judge Goku, the moment you acknowledge that you found the victim's body in your cabin, this itinerary suddenly became much more significant.
What? Why?
On the night in question, as always, a crewman sentry was on guard outside your cabin door. As long as he was there, nobody could have fired a shot inside the cabin.
Absolutely, because it's inconceivable that the guard wouldn't have heard it and come to investigate.
So that tells us the crime must have taken place when the guard was elsewhere. And that narrows it down to the 20 minutes just after 10 o'clock, as indicated on the itinerary. Yes, I see no flaw in your reasoning so far. But the crucial point is this. When the evacuation drill took place, the steamship had already put to sea from the port of Dunkirk. Now, clearly the murder could only have been committed by someone who was aboard the vessel at the time. But Prosecutor Asogi stated in yesterday's proceedings
I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life, so I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. I spent that night at a boarding house in the town and returned to England the following morning.
which I'm sure the court will agree is conclusive proof that Kazuma Asogi couldn't possibly have carried out the killing.
Yeah!
Okay, cool. I get it.
No, absolutely not. I will not accept that at all.
What do you mean?
The boy's just saying that to exonerate himself. We can't trust that he really disembarked the vessel. Obviously, after he left my cabin, he hid himself somewhere nearby the ship. Just waiting for his chance to...
Objection! No, that's out of the question. Isn't it, Cosma?
As the defense rightly recalls, I disembarked the vessel and spent the night in a boarding house in Dunkirk. And as I said yesterday, I signed my name in the accommodations register books. All extremely easy to verify and undeniable proof.
No,
There's no escape this time. You can forget that you're a judge or a government minister. It's time you gave the court an honest answer as a common man.
Oh, that plate's gonna break.
You killed Inspector Tobias Gregson and transported his corpse back to Britain. Then you dumped the body in the room on Fresno Street and made it look as if the murder had happened there. That's what really happened, isn't it, Seishiro Jigoku?
it was that damn trial 10 years ago. Looking back now, my fate was decided that day. I was doomed already.
Wow.
I told you it was fucked.
Oh my god.
I didn't think that fucked.
It's over. My life is over.
That's the same line as what's his name? He who jumped out the window.
Oh, that's right.
Oh. The guard, or the
Oh, yeah. I've forgotten his
the
name.
prison guy.
Yeah, Wonder's character.
Yeah. Daily Vigil.
Daily Vigil.
Daily Vigil.
Yeah. I think this is still Sap. Or, Jay.
I was trying to think, what was that guy's voice? Oh yeah, he had 3.
A British assassin to eliminate a professor in Japan. A Japanese assassin to eliminate a detective in Britain. Both assassins will use diplomatic immunity to evade conviction and return safely to their homelands. The assassin exchange request arrived from Britain about 1 year ago. Though it was hardly a request, It was a demand.
And for that, you decided to recruit Mr. Asogi. But things didn't go according to plan. Your chosen assassin never made it to Britain. And you found yourself unable to dispatch a replacement. Because I was already on my way to Britain at the time in Cosmo's place.
And that left me with only one option for carrying out my obligation. To eliminate the mark myself, personally. Of course, there was but a single opportunity for me to do that.
The International Forensic Science Symposium, I presume.
That's right. I decided it would be safest to carry out the plan before my arrival in Britain. So I enlisted the help of my British counterpart and made my arrangements for a pretext that would take the inspector to Dunkirk. To lure the man in, he was given a sham mission by the Reaper.
What? The Reaper?
But there's only one person who could have done that. The mastermind of the entire operation. The Reaper himself.
Ah,
So, that means the assassin exchange was... It was all planned by the Reaper.
I'm not at liberty to say anything about my British counterpart. Anyway, the inspector accepted the Reaper's mission and dutifully infiltrated my cabin on the steamship. But it was all a trap designed to lead him to France and to his own death.
Oh, how awful.
It was 9 or past 9 o'clock when I returned to my cabin from the dining hall that evening. I didn't give him time to attack me. I choked him until he lost consciousness. But there was a guard just outside the door, so I left it at that for the time being. Even the slightest noise might have aroused suspicion, so I bided my time, waiting.
for the 20 minutes after 10 o'clock.
I had intended to finish him by strangulation, but moments before I had the chance, he suddenly came round and went for me with a reckless move. I'd received a British-issued gun 16 years earlier, being a member of the judiciary as a visiting student.
Oh, yeah.
I never imagined I'd have to use it for something like that.
So the revolver belongs to you, does it? Then the victim was killed inside your cabin on the SS Grouse. Which begs the question of why you arranged for his body to be discovered in the room on Fresno Street.
The young judicial assistant over there has already answered that question. There was no way I could take the body up to the deck to throw it over the side. That's precisely where all the crewmen were gathered for the evacuation drill.
Yeah, but didn't this happen like more than a week ago? Didn't you have the time?
So before the first-class cabin sentries returned, I took the corpse to the refrigeration room.
And then on arriving in Dover, you concealed the body in your trunk in order to smuggle it past the border police.
I knew I needed to take steps if the police were to be convinced that the body was found in London.
Wonder?
Sir, I was
Okay,
muted.
he's dead.
Sorry?
In that case, you must have known. You must have had intimate details of Inspector Gregson's intended schedule.
Yes, my British counterparts had me everything I needed to know.
Jay? Jay?
Pausek is frozen for me. Oh, there it is.
I
The
see.
inspector
Oh.
was due at Fresno Street at 5 o'clock that afternoon, in order to meet a man by the name of Hugh Boone, from whom he would take back his police identification.
Ah,
I decided that man would be the perfect person to set up as the culprit. So I had a hackney carriage over there with the body still in my trunk.
that must have been just after we took this photograph with you at the hotel then.
Yes, I wasn't expecting a welcome committee. I was more than a little nervous. On Fresno Street, I spotted a young girl selling little firecrackers.
Miss Venus, of course.
I conceived of the yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
conceived of the candle trick there and then. Also, who was that?
Oops. Name is gone now.
Somebody can check that on
I-
Streamlabs, right?
I can't.
Oh, so I donned a simple disguise and approached the girl to buy firecrackers to replicate a gunshot.
What sort of disguise?
For some reason, the inspector had a bright red hairpiece in his own traveling case. So I put that on. Although I suspect I drew more attention to myself in that than I would have otherwise.
The hairpiece we found at the scene. The inspector had it ready for the Red-Headed League investigation.
I only arrived at the room at around 5:15. So I quickly placed the body on the floor, moved the nice notice board, and then set up my little candle trick. I arranged it so the firecrackers would go off with a bang around 15 minutes later.
So that Mr. Boone, who was due to arrive at 5, would walk straight into a trap.
I want to thank them in the chat, but I'm not sure how to say it.
Thank you, Logia. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Except at the moment, I made a careless blunder.
What was that?
Well, that's the brother of Clueless.
I imagine it was the bag of fish and chips.
Ah,
I didn't notice that it had fallen out of his overcoat pocket when I moved the body to the refrigeration room. I put it back into his pocket the following morning, but... Well, it seems the warmth of the heated cabin had accelerated the decay of the fish. Anyway, that's everything. All the sordid details of what I did.
no bench. Don't need it. I've heard enough. We've arrived at the truth about the murder of one of the country's most capable and respected police inspectors. The witness will be tried in the coming days. For a crime of such a vile nature, you can expect the most severe penalty.
An exchange of assassins. What a foolhardy idea.
Mr. Jigoku, one last detail. Who was your counterpart in Britain? Who was the mastermind behind the assassin exchange? Nothing you say now can make matters any worse for you. Just tell us.
Yugg!
Huh?
I think it said enough.
Oh. I've already told you that I cannot say.
Even though, as things stand, you may very well never set foot in your homeland again.
What are you waiting for? Can't we just get this over with now? It's finished. All of it. I'm finished.
Then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I now pronounce the findings of this court. This man before us is admitted to the willful murder of Tobias Gregson. Seishiro Jigoku, it is the opinion of this court that you should be found guilty.
You don't see that often.
And may I remind all those present of the strict confidentiality demanded by this closed court.
That's weird. We normally don't get, like, a guilty verdict as a victory.
Yeah. Moments ago, Mr. Jigoku signed a written confession, admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and the subsequent conveyance of the body. In short, the defendant's innocence has therefore been established beyond doubt.
Oh, wonderful. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, thank you.
Is something wrong?
I'm just a little troubled by his silence. The true identity of the Reaper of the Bailey and this extraordinary assassin exchange. We do remain in the dark about these mysteries, however. Insofar as the indictment brought up against the defendants in this trial, we have reached a conclusion.
I have every intention of pursuing both mysteries. As a prosecutor.
As you wish. Now for the formal adjudication. I hereby declare the defendant Barak van Zeeks.
Objection.
We're not done yet.
Why not?
The prosecution calls for adjudication to be deferred.
Counsel.
The accused's innocence hasn't been fully established at all. And therefore, it would be wrong to deliver a verdict at this time.
Is he arguing that because we don't know who the Reaper is, it's still possible it's
Yeah, I
Van
think that's
Zeeks?
exactly what he's about to argue. That Van Zeeks is still the Reaper, the one behind it.
That is the prosecution's unwavering position.
What?
But Judge Jigoku has already confessed.
Nevertheless, Barak van Zeeks has committed crimes for which he must be punished.
Well, it would appear you have information that the court needs to hear, Prosecutor Soki.
Certainly, the murder of Inspector Gregson was actually carried out by Seishiro Jigoku. But it's clear from the witness's testimony that he was coerced into complying with the plot. Into this sick, merciless assassination exchange.
That may be true, but
What I want to know is who coerced Jigoku? Who was pulling the strings? The victim went to France having been ordered on a mission for the Reaper, only to be murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind the assassin exchange is someone in a position to give such an order. As we've already established, the Reaper himself.
Man, you're so close!
well, certainly that would appear to follow.
The prosecution hereby formally accuses the man in the dock, Beric Van Zieks, of being the Reaper of the Bailey, and furthermore, I'm going to prove his guilt beyond all reasonable doubt.
What? Order, order, order. The Reaper of the Bailey is a long-standing mystery, Council. Are you suggesting that you have new information with which to build a case?
Scotland Yard has already investigated Lord Van Zieks very thoroughly in that regard, and they found no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the claim that he is the Reaper.
Perhaps, but circumstances have now changed.
What do you mean?
It's already been established that the assassin exchange was negotiated with Jigoku by the Reaper himself, which means we now have a new line of questioning by which to identify definitively the man's identity. That is the prosecution's intention here.
I must say I'm surprised by quite how tenaciously you appear to want to besmirch my name.
You are guilty of an unforgivable crime, Lord Van Zieks.
It wasn't me, you fool!
And I will bring you to justice for it, whatever it takes.
That explains Cosmo's silence before. He'll stop at nothing to finish what Lord Van Zieks unwittingly started 10 years ago. Very well, whilst it's extremely irregular. I will, on this occasion, grant the prosecution further opportunity for witness testimony. Because it's good for me. The defendant will disclose any and all involvement he has had with the Reaper and the Assassin exchange.
I thank you, my lord, for guiding the court so wisely.
I hereby declare this court to be in session for a supplementary hearing.
Pray turn a blind eye to discourtesy, as I verify that this vile and unremitting accusation hasn't soured the content of my hallowed chalice.
Lord Van Zieks.
Why did I put the foot down? I first had to suffer the pseudonym of the Reaper 10 years ago now. And ever since that time, I've endured the weight of that implied guilt that's gone with it. My wine! So I welcome the chance to testify now. And crush those allegations once and for all, and the vine supply of that man! No!
Good. Good.
Good.
Then let justice then let just us decide, Lord Van Zieks. The prosecution seeks to begin building its case by calling the accused to the stand as the primary witness.
Was that a cat?
Yes, that was Seymour.
I see.
Seymour.
The bathroom
Oh, I didn't catch that we named the cat. I see.
Yes, that cat has
Oh.
been named now.
I see.
The cat is Seymour.
Oh.
I'm not sure if I said it in the chat. I'm not sure if I said it on stream. He was very sudden. Anyway, in order that he may answer the accusation brought by the prosecution that he is the Reaper of the Bailey.
And what says the defense?
Putting the defendant in the witness stand can be extremely dangerous. And if Kazuma-sama is so emotional at the moment, he's not thinking logically.
You're right that he's not himself. But I knew it would be like this. And I came here today to determined to face him through whatever might arise. As a lawyer and as his friend.
Then that's what we must do.
The defense has no objection, my lord. Very well. Defendant, you will take the witness stand. and give formal testimony on the subject of your involvement with the Reaper and the Assassin Exchange.
As you wish, my lord.
Okay.
I've never taken the life of another, nor have I instructed another to kill. I've been investigating the truth behind the Reaper for years, and I was aware of Gregson's involvement. That's the reason why I went to Fresno Street that day, and how I came to discover the body. The point is, no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. Clearly, therefore, there's no reason to suspect me of being behind the Assassin Exchange.
One of those was suspicious. So you deny all accusations by the prosecution, both that you are the Reaper of the Bailey and that you masterminded the Assassin Exchange.
I acknowledge that the public at large believe me to be the Reaper. However, that's a fallacy, which I alone am in position to forswear.
Naturally, the prosecution believes the testimony just given by the accused to be untrue. Ryunosuke Naruhodo?
Yes.
Let me ask you, why are you here? What really brings you to this courtroom?
It's my job.
A desire to uncover the truth.
Even if the truth proves your client to be guilty?
Yeah, but it's not gonna. From all my experiences in this courtroom, I've come to realize something. The truth can't be hidden. Sooner or later, it will come out. So it's always my intention to work with my client in pursuit of the truth.
I want you to remember what you just said.
Enough dilatory chatter. Counsel for the defense, proceed to cross-examine the witness. Yes, my lord. I know exactly what you're thinking, Cosma. I know you're just waiting to point it out. The contradiction you're convinced lies somewhere within this man's testimony. I feel like we're just on the cusp of somebody pointing a finger of Strongheart. It's gonna happen real soon.
I'm just waiting for the flashback.
Hold it! So, you're not what the general public refer to as the infamous Reaper of the Bailey.
Exactly.
Don't imagine for a moment that the court would be satisfied with a one-word answer on this.
Too bad.
Damn it! Walked right into that one, didn't I?
If you're intending to comment on every sentence, this could take a while, Cosma. Didn't you find it disturbing, though, that one by one defendants who'd been acquitted after your unsuccessful prosecution were killed?
Let me answer that question by posing another. If one by one defendants who'd been acquitted after your successful defense were killed, would you find that disturbing? Yes.
Disturbing? I couldn't possibly say how that would make me feel with a one-word answer like that.
Exactly.
Well, that told me.
But even though I'm not the Reaper, that doesn't mean I ignored all the hearsay. I'm risking the truth behind the Reaper for years, blah blah blah.
Hold it. You say for years. How long exactly?
10 years. Oh, since the very first time the Reaper's influence was felt in this courtroom. 10 years ago now!
And your investigation
In the elevator.
led you somewhere to Inspector Gregson, you're saying.
I also have fear of earthquakes. I didn't want to believe it. He was a personal acquaintance. We'd worked on cases together in the past.
A friend,
With the
even.
DLC incident.
It felt like a betrayal, but I demanded permission to search his office at the yard without his knowledge.
which is when you found his secret notebook, is it?
It's when I learned of the location he noted only as Grouse and the appointment at 5 p.m. on the 31st. Though I didn't know the significance of those details at the time.
So now we're at the nub of the matter.
As it turns out, the significance for me personally was very unfortunate.
Hold it. But why did you go to that specific location?
I thought that if it was the Reaper's headquarters, then by turning up there at 5 o'clock, I would catch whoever was involved red-handed. Sadly, all that was awaiting me was the Inspector's corpse.
Yes, even though it wasn't designed for you, you walked straight into the trap set by Jigoku.
Exactly. Jigoku had intended to implicate Hugh Boone. But unhappily for me, I arrived at the scene first.
Ha! A particularly careless blunder.
It wasn't me!
Moved on to just throwing insults around, I see then, Kazuma.
Think what you will. It doesn't change the truth.
Hold it. There is a link between you and Gregson, though.
Of course, we were close acquaintances. We worked on numerous cases together. I consider the man to be a mentor of sorts. He taught me a number of important lessons.
He did. Such as what?
Where to buy good fish and chips, and such like.
Well, that was convincing.
Dr. Wilson was a coroner, of course, but that was some time in the past. And in my case, I understand it was several years ago now that he was invited to work at the Japanese university.
That's right. He was a visiting professor at the Imperial Yumei University in Tokyo.
It should be unambiguously clear, then, that no link exists between myself and him. In other words, I had no motive for sending some assassin across the oceans to kill the man.
It sounds plausible enough, and I want to believe it. But something about this just doesn't quite sit right with me. Hold it. Certainly as it stands, there's no evidence to suggest that you concocted the scheme.
Objection.
Wonder? Wonder.
Muted because Seymour was crying. But as it stands, we have only the accused insistence of his innocence.
Sorry?
Perhaps there is some reason that would explain why he masterminded the assassin exchange. And if a reason could be established later in these proceedings, then the accused claim in this testimony that he wasn't involved would amount to perjury.
Well, yes, that's true, but...
Clearly, Kazuma-sama intends to identify a reason and use it to make his case.
So if we don't identify something first,
He'll gain the advantage.
this could be dangerous. A convincing testimony by Lord Van Zeeks.
Certainly, with no apparent connection between the three men, there's no way to establish a motive. The testimony seems unassailable as far as I can see. Dear me, what a bleak expression!
I agree, there doesn't appear to be any particular link between them at first glance. But with the inclusion of one other person... I must be overthinking it, surely.
Another person, Mr. Naruhodo?
I need to think back over all the information we've gleaned so far.
All right. And I'll review my notes about the case and all the evidence in the court record.
Could it be that Lord Van Zeeks has something to hide after all? Okay. Well, clearly it's about this. The point is, no common
yeah.
thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. Yourself, Gregson, Dr. Wilson. No.
Would it be the list of names because he neglected to mention Asashin?
His name isn't on that list, though.
Yeah. Like, there's a connection between the other two, but not all three of them. That we seemingly can see right now. Can we look at this one again, just...
Okay, Asogi,
Yeah.
Asashin, T. Gregson.
Thank you, Hosanaga.
Wilson. Thank you. Yeah, I don't really see how he's involved with this. Specifically, Van Zeeks.
If he's the Reaper, that would be the association, but yeah, we are assuming he's not.
Yeah, he doesn't appear to be involved in that. Wait, what about the photo? Isn't there a photo?
There's a photo of Gregson and his brother, but not of Dr. Wilson. Can we look at it?
Yeah.
Wilson did examine the body of his brother, didn't he?
Oh, the similar.
Oh,
it's
shit,
Clint.
right.
It's Clint.
Yeah, it's
Clint.
Clint.
Is the,
Yeah,
Clint.
it's Clint's autopsy. Clint's autopsy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah!
Okay. All right. Okay. What is this? An autopsy report? Wait, this is 10 years old. From the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zeeks.
What? My brother's autopsy report.
I'm pleased to see the defense doesn't intend to run from the undeniable truth.
Wait, but wasn't this autopsy not actually done by Wilson?
But he
Just signed
oversaw
it?
it, I think.
Hmm.
Well, does Zeeks know that?
Yeah, I don't think he would.
Isn't his?
Yes,
isn't
that's
his,
irrelevant.
I think his signature is on it.
Yeah, his signature is on
Yeah,
it, but
Wilson's
that's the
signature
only
is
thing.
on it, but Mikotobo is the one that actually did the autopsy. Is that right?
I
Yeah,
think
and-
you're right about that. I believe
Yeah,
so.
but no, Wilson performed it. Mikotobo wrote
Oh,
it.
that's right, because it
Oh.
was the whole thing with the handwriting
Yeah.
and Iris.
Yeah.
Or wait, no, I was right.
Wait, what?
kinda-
What is happening anymore?
I kind of thought that she was right the first time. Order in the court! What reason do you have for presenting a 10-year-old autopsy report here, counsel?
A connection.
This is the autopsy report of the professor's final victim. It is an indelible link between Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson, and the defendant.
Not that accursed name again. The professor.
I've personally researched all the court records relating to that case. I know that at the time, autopsy was considered sacrilege to the victim's souls. And for a member of the aristocracy like Lord Clint Van Zeeks, it was unthinkable. But someone implored the powers that be to allow the autopsy to go ahead. Inspector Gregson. He declared that he was certain he would obtain conclusive proof from the procedure.
And it was Dr. Wilson who conducted the autopsy. His signature is clearly visible on the document.
As promised by Gregson, the autopsy did indeed produce evidence. Evidence that conclusively proved Genshin Isogi was guilty of the murders. In my brother's dying moments, he mustered all his remaining strength to leave that vital clue behind.
Indeed, that was the key to indicting the professor for his crimes and the conclusive evidence that convicted him.
Time to call Dr. Wilson to the witness stand.
It enabled Lord Van Zeeks here to avenge his brother's senseless death, with a marvelous victory in courts.
A marvelous victory, was it? I wonder if that's really true. could the same be said if it turned out the key piece of evidence in question was, in fact, fabricated? If the inspector, the coroner, and the prosecutor all colluded together to cast an innocent Japanese man as a mass murderer and send him to his death.
No, I don't think so, Kazuma.
That's outrageous!
And now, 10 years later, for some reason the secret has been threatened and needs protecting. Which is why the inspector and the coroner had to be silenced, isn't it? By someone in power in Japan and in Britain, using 2 killers recruited for the assassin exchange.
Order at once.
10 years ago, my father was convicted in this very courtroom as a mass murderer, to be sentenced to death. But it was all a sham, and I swore to myself that I'd prove it. Which is why I had to come to Britain, whatever the cost.
You'll have to forgive me if I feel compelled to toast this vengeful Nipponese tenacity for purpose here. However... My wife! Is there really someone... Is there really a wine cellar in the aristocracy here?
I'm under the table.
Get out! He who fails to quash his emotions in the courtroom has failed as a lawyer.
Come on, Kazuma, you know this won't wash. You're claiming your father was misrepresented in a trial that took place a whole decade ago. You must see that without evidence, that's nothing more than a wild accusation.
As it happens, I have evidence.
What?
As the court has heard, I crossed the channel to France with Gregson on the 31st. I went with him on the pretext of being the assassin recruited to kill Seishiro Jigoku. But my true intentions were to make the inspector tell me the truth.
What truth?
The truth about the evidence, and he acknowledged what I'd already deduced. There's a closely guarded secret about what went on in that autopsy 10 years ago.
What? What a secret! I know nothing of any secret.
While we waited for my supposed mark in Jigoku's cabin, I drew my clan's illustrious sword Karuma before the inspector's eyes. He very quickly understood what my true motive was. Right, I see. You're Shogi's young lady, are you? You know what? You think you're gonna cut me down for fat thing, is that it? That will very much depend on the answers you give to my questions. I want to know what really happened 10 years ago. The truth. That's all. Before we get into it, let me make one thing clear. I still believe your father was the professor. There's no doubt in my mind. But unfortunately, back then, we didn't have the evidence we needed to make the crime stick. So, you admit it then? The evidence used in my father's trial was fabricated? It was for the good of the country. Anyway, I was just following orders. Orders? What exactly did you do? Speak! I'm not saying another word. Even if your life depends on it? That's right. Even that. Why? Oh, hey, alright. Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? So that's when the tip of the sword broke.
Oh, Kazuma-sama.
If the results of Clint Van Zeek's autopsy were fabricated, then the investigating officer Gregson and the lead coroner Wilson must have known about it. And they can only have been ordered to pervert the course of justice in that way by one man. Well, two men, but only one that I care to accuse right now. The man leading the case for the prosecution, Beric Van Zeeks.
In other words, the defendant did have cause to organize this exchange of assassins.
Exactly. And as was established earlier, it has to have been the Reaper himself who liaised with the Jigoku in Japan to arrange the exchange.
Ah,
So it follows that the Reaper's true identity can only be that of the man who stands accused in this courtroom today, Beric Van Zeeks. Sounds good to me.
Not to me. Kazuma Sogi.
What?
What you just told the court. Are you absolutely certain of your facts? Did Gregson really fabricate evidence for the trial 10 years ago?
I heard it with my own ears. His shameful admission.
In that case, I know. The name of the Reaper.
What?
Lord Van Zeeks?
I gave no such orders. I know that for certain. Which narrows down the remaining possibilities to one!
If Lord Van Zeeks isn't the one behind all this, then yes, there is only one other person who could have done something like that.
Who could it be?
I believe I know who it is
How
too.
will we ever know?
You?
I just had a feeling this name was going to come up.
Oh, did you?
The true identity of the infamous Reaper of the Bailey is Do It!
Who could it be?
The Sholmes!
It's Sholmes!
No, no.
The only person who could have arranged the assassin exchange and manipulated the autopsy reports is the Lord Chief Justice himself, Lord Mael Strongheart.
What? Lord Strongheart?
Oh my god. Yes,
Finally.
it's true that 10 years ago the defendant handled the prosecution of the professor in court, but he only took over the case after his brother, Lord Clint Van Zeeks, had been killed. That's stupid. Move on. I can only assume that this is the most inappropriate joke in British judicial history.
You are the worst joke in judicial history.
Don't you finish that statement, Ahsoka. Shut up! Well, Lord Van Zeeks?
10 years ago, I was very new to my profession. But I had a burning desire to avenge my brother's death. So I pleaded for control of the case.
Oh.
The investigation to that point, the supplication of the Lord to allow my brother's corpse to be examined. All the evidence I was given, the autopsy reports, it all came from you. I've spent my life since I then believing I was in your debt for the way you stood aside and let me handle the trial. But I see now. I was very much mistaken.
It was a hugely influential force that caused the inspector and the coroner to break the law 10 years ago. and that same force was still felt a decade later on the other side of the world by Seishiro Jigoku. Lord Strongheart, everything falls into place when we recognize that you are the Reaper of the Bailey.
I'm sorry. I've been waiting for this moment, and I just realized I could do it. The court awaits your response, my lord. This may very well go down in British judicial history, but I assure you, it is no joke. Consider this a formal accusal by the defense.
But that's not you. You can't do that. It doesn't warrant a response. A formal accusal? Don't be absurd. The defense's claims are utter nonsense, a wild fantasy at best. You're not going to defend yourself? You claim that there was some wrongdoing with Lord Clint Van Zeek's autopsy. That's utterly untrue. Objection. Flounder.
I was
Meow.
muted again, but I heard it from Gregson's own lips. He admitted to it.
And where is your evidence?
What?
Gregson's dead now, unless you were thinking of summoning a ghost to the stand.
when would that ever happen? Oh, no.
Who would ever do
That
that?
is ridiculous.
No.
I miss
That
Maya.
could never happen.
I miss Maya.
Maya too. I miss Pearl.
Here I come through time and space.
Yay!
You mean to say?
I forget how the system works in your little backwater country, but in the courts of the British Empire, without evidence there is no case. I have no intention of entertaining some wild fantasy that can't possibly be substantiated by anyone or anything.
Oh!
Order in the court. Following Inspector Gregson's murder and in the light of Dr. Wilson's death as well, there's really no one left who could testify about the events of 10 years ago, is there?
The real purpose of the assassin exchange.
This court has no business raking over the coals of a case that was concluded a decade ago. The accused...
Yotoba.
Well,
Kotoba.
I don't care about that. I'm just moving forward. The accusal brought by the prosecution and the defense is categorically denied. I take it that there's no objections, is that correct?
I do have an objection, sir.
I don't care!
What do you just asked me if anybody had any objections.
And
so
I
don't have
heard
one.
nothing, Cosma. he's more, sorry, one more. He has more or less waited his whole life for this moment. Is there really nothing else we can do now? Is there no other avenue? Is there no other avenue we can go down in pursuit of the truth about what happened all those years ago? If only there was someone who could testify about Clint Van Zeek's
Who
autopsy.
could it
There is
possibly
someone.
be?
Oh my god.
Oh.
He's gone to extraordinary lengths to cover his tracks, even so far as dispatching an assassin all the way to Japan to ensure Dr. Wilson's silence, and Dr. Scythe won't say anything against Strongheart. But there's still one ray of hope. Objection! Actually, there is one person. One person who could still testify about that autopsy. Don't be ridiculous. There's no one left.
Who, Ryunosuke? Who? Tell me.
Jay, are you lost?
Tell you,
No,
I will,
no.
Cosma.
Maybe.
Please, this trial can't end. Not yet. We're getting dramatic.
It's Wilson!
I'm not doing this for you. Uh-oh. I'm doing it for the truth. The person the defense would like to call to the stand to testify about the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zeek's
Oh, yeah.
is...
Iris.
Yeah.
Iris, right?
I forgot actually, but
Wait,
Ward
Iris?
mentioned it, but no.
Because she read the.
She stole the
Notes?
document.
But,
Oh,
but
she
what
did
about the
have-
person right beside?
You know, the person who also wrote the autopsy and never saw the actual autopsy itself. And would know if
Oh.
the evidence was
Oh, yeah.
actually forged.
I mean, I could see that.
I kind of feel like it could be either now.
Yeah.
Well, how would
shows.
Iris have known that it was forged evidence?
I guess she wouldn't. I'll try Mikotoba.
Mikotoba was there.
Heaven help us. Another Japanese. An expert in forensics. An expert in forensic medicine, my lord. Professor Yujin Mikotoba. 16 years ago, he came to London with Seishiro Jigoku and Genshin Isogi as a visiting student. And what could his testimony possibly tell us?
Professor Mikotoba was the primary assistant during the autopsy in question. He was also the person who actually penned the report.
Incorrect. The autopsy was carried out by the coroner, Dr. Wilson. The report carries his signature.
It was the primary assistant's duty to keep a written record of the coroner's work during the procedure. In actual fact, the coroner merely read over the report at the end and signed it.
In other words, Professor Mikotoba witnessed the entire autopsy from start to finish. The defense demands that Professor Mikotoba be summoned as a witness as a matter of urgency. Whatever really happened in that autopsy laboratory 10 years ago is something only he can tell us. The defense's demand is denied. What?
But Professor Mikotoba is in London at this very moment. We could summon him to the stand in minutes.
Is this a preparation they were making?
Of course he's not going to agree to it. Strongheart has no intention of summoning anyone who knows. He's too concerned about protecting himself. Prosecutor Isogi, let me refresh your memory as you seem to have forgotten the prosecution's stance. Only minutes ago, you accused the defendant of being the Reaper and of masterminding the assassin exchange.
I did, yes.
So present your evidence for those claims and make your case complete.
At this time, I don't have the requisite evidence. But that's exactly why we need witness testimony.
The Professor case is closed. There are no clues in the distant past that will bolster your argument today. I'm afraid to say, Prosecutor Isogi, that you would appear to be possessed by the spirit of your late homicidal father. Now, as I stated earlier, this court has already reached a conclusion with respect to the matter at hand. Inspector Gregson was murdered by Japanese Supreme Court Judge Seishiro Jigoku. As for any hidden circumstances that may exist, they will be investigated in due course by the proper authorities. Objection! But we all know what will happen. That'll just give the mastermind of the whole venture time to cover his tracks again. By which you mean me. Your punishment for this contemptible behavior will be decided at a later date. As for you, Prosecutor Isogi, you will be remanded following these proceedings. Willingly, I trust, since you gave your word. This futile game of revenge is over, young Master Isogi.
I have no idea how this man would scream.
Oh. That will be all. I hereby declare this trial to be
Let's go, let's go, let's
Here it
go!
goes.
Summon Iris.
No, I don't like whatever's happening. I don't like it. Ah!
There he is!
No! Mr. Sholmes! Yes? This is no place for an amateur detection, Mr. Sholmes. Get amateur detection? Oh, for amateur. Yeah, get out! Don't like you. May I remind you that these proceedings are closed to the general public? You will leave the courtroom at once. Objection! Mr. Sholmes was instrumental in the apprehension of Seishiro Jigoku before he fled from Europe. The court should hear what he has to say. No. No. Just no. Damn it.
Lord Mail Strongheart,
I'm not listening. I'm not listening.
it's imperative that you refrain from bringing this trial to an end at this stage.
Oh, is it really? And why would that be?
You need only recall your own words from the opening of the trial to answer that question, if I may. We will stop at We will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings.
I don't sound like that!
Surely you do. It can't be! That the shock of being accused of being the Reaper yourself has erased that from your memory, can it?
Shut up! The whole truth, sirs, has already been uncovered.
It would seem that we have a great many important members of the judiciary present here today. I put it to you, my dear fellows. Should the trial end at this juncture? After all, why have you been invited to attend? To nod along with the pre-verifications of your superiors?
No! Order in the court!
It seems to me that we stand before a door that leads to a new era of legal practices. And the door is ajar, and the lid is loose, and there's like a pickle inside. Oh, let us engage from the shadows of the Reaper's decade. Long as ascendiary. Yes, and for you and you alone, my dear fellows, have the power to push the door open now.
The auditors in the gallery have no rights to express an opinion in court's proceedings. Silence!
He's right.
Yes, if we
Yes,
call
we
the
called the
trial
trial
to an end, it must end.
I sense there's dark things occurring behind the scenes. Dark things
A single person? Are there any single people here?
What's...
Summon the witness!
That's right! We need to clear this up before the young Japanese fellows are
Wow.
My lord!
You assured
My
those
lord!
present here that would never cover the whole truth.
lord!
Vindicate yourself from this outlandish bullshit!
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth!
My
That's the very foundation of British law!
My lord!
A toast to my dependable colleagues in the gallery.
On with the
On
trial!
with the
On with the trial!
Testify!
Testify! Testify! Testify! Can I get a
Well,
witness?
my lord, you hear the voices of the British justice, I take it.
Oh, they're actually
I
saying
think-
it.
Yeah.
I think you'll find it to be rather awkward to silence.
The court will recess briefly. I have no intention of shrinking from these allegations. Bailiff, arrange for the subpoena of the witness at once. As soon as the gentleman arrives at the courthouse, we shall reconvene.
A recess won't be necessary, my lord.
Pardon?
Mikitoba is a close friend of mine. He accompanied me till today and is waiting in the antechamber as we speak. I do believe he's been enjoying a little trip down memory lane, in fact.
What? Professor Mikitoba is here in the courthouse?
Mr. Sholmes, you didn't know this would happen, did you?
My dear fellow, no one is in a better position to answer that question than you, Shirley.
I wasn't just asking for the fun of it, you know. Well, I must thank you for your assistance in this matter, Mr. Sholmes. course. However, you are of no further use here. Kindly leave the courtroom at once.
But of course, in truth, I find myself rather busy now as a result of these developments. Mr. Naruhodo,
Yes.
Oh, he was actually looking this way. I don't like that. Ah.
I trust you have Iris's little lucky charm with you?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's still in my pocket.
She sends her regards and a reminder. If you
Oh.
find yourself at a dead end, the ears are at your disposal. Just one tug, if you please.
Oh, of course. Yes. Good. In that case, the trial will continue without delay. Except that I'm going to call it right here. Ha ha! I get a week. I'm going to figure something out in that time. I'm going to get away.
Kill him in a
No.
You can't keep getting away with this.
I'm going to do it right now. You can't stop.
Testify! Testify!
Testify.
No,
Testify.
fuck you. Next week.
Oh,
Next
awkward
week.
thing,
Next
my
week. Yes.
headphones disconnected for like a couple minutes there, and I was
Oh,
desperately
no.
trying to get that
Oh,
figured
no.
out during all of that. I even did a line without being able to hear anything.
Oh,
It worked out.
okay.
Oh,
Alright,
that-
none of it was that important.
yes, Happy.
I just want to mention because I saw that Ward brought it up earlier, but actually ever since Ryunosuke lost his sword, he's doing the actual like Phoenix pose whenever he's confident that he does.
Oh,
Phoenix
really?
does in later games. Yeah,
Oh, that's
Oh,
cool.
I guess
because he no longer had the sword to hold on to.
Oh, I
So
see
he's
what you
relying on
mean.
himself.
Oh, you're talking about the hands on his hips.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I'm with it. Yeah. Well, this was fun. This was cool. A lot of good
Yeah.
information. Very tidy also where we ended because like it's gonna be
Oh, yeah.
a great stopping point. And
Yeah, that's
starting
a
point.
good.
Yeah, it's good.
place to
It's
stop.
very nice.
I do feel like we're getting really close to the end, but that also could be 2 more streams.
It is
yeah.
possible that the next stream is the last one, but
But I wouldn't bet on it.
No promises.
Yeah.
maybe two. Maybe two. We'll find out what we're doing with the schedule for next week. Oh no, wait, we've already posted that, haven't we? When
Yeah,
are we
we've
doing this
already
again?
posted the schedule.
It's Sunday again?
Next Sunday. One
Okay.
week
Yeah.
from today.
Maybe
Okay.
for like 1 more minute till the to be continued.
Wait, really? Okay. If you really want me to, okay, we'll go for a moment.
Okay, but
Bailiff, show the witness to the stand. Do it.
Don't tell me this is the only line. Oh.
I don't know. So it's Lord Strongheart. He's the Reaper of the Bailey. Where exactly is this trial going to take me, I wonder? Just how deep am I about to be plunged into the blackness of the abyss? Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to head into the heart of this maelstrom and confront whatever horrors it tries to drown me under.
Yeah.
okay, that's kind of funny.
Well, we could have come back with that cool music, but it's fine. It's fine. To be continued.
we
There
have
it
the main
is.
menu music.
Yeah, you right. To be continued. Come on, to be continued.
To be continued.
Come on, save your progress. Okay, I guess we don't really need to necessarily say watch that. Okay, what are we doing tomorrow? What is on the schedule for tomorrow?
Mario.
Tomorrow is Mario and Rabbids.
Mario Rabbids!
Yeah,
The second
Sparks
one.
of Hope.
The sequel.
Yeah. I
forward to
still haven't seen the ending of the first one, but
Well, I'm sure that you can play
Neither
the
have
second
I.
one. What?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, we played the majority of it, but like the game is good. We just have been busy with other things whenever it comes to the ending.
Whoops.
Yeah.
And
But we'll
the-
check out the new one tomorrow.
Yeah. What kind of soup was this?
Testify soup.
Testify soup.
Soup.
Testify soup.
Testify.
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 Testify soup. None of you will get. No, I'm not going to next week.
Well, winning.
No.
Get fucked.
No, I won't. All right. Goodbye. Have a good night. See ya.
Night.
Bye bye.
Night.